Headlines, and let's now take a look at the top story on the show. Well, Tata Sons has pulled up its digital vertical for Bigbasket's sluggish response to rapidly evolving quick commerce space, and that has allowed competitors reportedly like Blinkit and Zepto to surge. In a recent review of Tata Sons, in fact, the company has expressed dissatisfaction with Bigbasket. My colleague Anjali is joining us live with more details on that. Anjali, so Tata Sons expressing a dissatisfaction, especially as far as the growth trajectory of Bigbasket in the quick commerce segment is concerned. But what else are you picking up on this dissatisfaction that Tata Sons has conveyed to Bigbasket?
That's right. In a review of all of its Tata Digital's businesses, Tata Sons has shown its dissatisfaction with the way Bigbasket has been performing within the quick commerce segment, as it has seen the competitors like Blinkit and Zepto scale much faster. And now Bigbasket is looking to raise more funds, and they have tapped into external investors for this fundraise. What we are picking up is that Bigbasket is seeking to raise around $1 billion in external funding. Now, this $1 billion funding was to come from Tata Sons. However, they are holding back on this and have asked Bigbasket to look for these funds externally. So now Bigbasket operates BB Now, which is its instant delivery or 10-minute delivery platform, and we are also learning that a global investment bank is assisting them in this process. Now, in the review, Tata Sons had shown their displeasure with the way Bigbasket had been scaling up in the quick commerce business, which currently has around 7% share in the quick commerce market, which is growing quite rapidly. Now, Bigbasket may tap into its existing investors, which include Mirai Asset, CDC Group, Bessemer Venture Partners, or it may look at a new venture capital firm or private equity firm as well. But that's all we have so far.
Anjali, thank you very much for all the information that you're gathering with respect to Tata Sons not being apparently happy with Bigbasket's performance, and of course it's lagging behind rivals in the rapidly and fast expanding quick commerce business. But ladies and gentlemen, let's now shift our focus to the other big tech story that's shaping up. Well, IT giant Infosys has announced performance bonus at an average of 80% of the targets to its eligible employees, and that's for the third quarter that ended in December. That's what sources are telling ET Now. Remember, this is ahead of the rollout of the annual pay hikes that are expected before the end of March. So ET Now is also gathering from sources that variable pay has seen a reduction of up to 10 percentage points as compared to a quarter two, and disbursements will begin in April. These increments are expected to be in the range of 4 to 8% is what sources within the company have told us. In fact, they were told by their respective managers. Infosys, remember, hasn't really responded to ET Now's queries, but ET Now has accessed the email that has been sent by Infosys management to the employees as far as these bonuses are concerned. Remember, Infosys has been in the midst of a controversy with respect to the laying off of at least 300 freshers in their Mysuru campus. In fact, an IT employee union has claimed that at least 700 employees have been asked to leave. However, the final assessment of these employees is pending, and that decision should be out by the 24th of this month. Meanwhile, the state labor panel is probing on these reported layoffs and should be out with its reports soon. So that's as far as Infosys is concerned. But ladies and gentlemen, let's now shift our focus to this other story that we are tracking, and that's on Elon Musk, who's never out of news. Now, reports suggest that Elon Musk's owned social media platform X is in discussion to secure funding at a $44 billion valuation. In fact, the talks for the new financing round are still underway. Remember, this comes after Musk's XAI held talks to raise $10 billion, potentially valuing the artificial intelligence startup at around $75 billion. Meanwhile, there are chances that the company may altogether put a stop to these talks. But did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that India's a growing startup ecosystem has made its presence felt in public markets, of course, but most startups have performed well in terms of market cap and price share, but many have failed to impress investors with negative returns, and Paytm is one of them. 65% negative returns the company has gotten. But Snehi, my colleague, is here with more details on the kind of returns that startups have gotten in the past 1 year.
Well, yes, we understand from reports that over 30 startups have gone public since the year 2020, and over 4 dozen more are preparing for IPOs in the 2025 to 2026 period. Now, if you take a look at 2025, several companies are preparing for their IPOs, the likes of Off Business, Ecom Express, Shiprocket, Urban Company, you have Physics Wala, Pine Labs, iFinance, and more such names that are gearing up for their D Street debut this year. But let's talk about how the debut on D Street, or rather the performance on D Street, has been since their debut for a lot of these IPOs. Let's talk about startups with the negative returns, with the most negative returns coming in ever since they have listed on D Street. And Paytm has the highest negative return, coming in at approximately 65.6%. It's a 65% cut coming in from their highest point since they have debuted. Other notable startups with losses include Delivery, with a 45% cut coming in from its D Street price. Mamaearth is lower, Ola Electric, Nazara Technology, Swiggy, and Nykaa. All of these prominent startups continue to do badly compared to their D Street listing day price. But if you take a look at on the flip side, startup with positive returns, that's Zomato, that's leading the pack with a return of 188% ever since it listed on D Street. And other high-performing startups also include the likes of Ixigo, a 58% uptick coming there. Policy Bazaar, you have 52%. MobiKwik is also done pretty well, 19.5% uptick coming over there. The likes of 5-Star Business, Veranda Learning, RateGain, Digit Insurance, EaseMyTrip, Unicommerce have also all generated positive returns since their IPOs. So keep a close eye on all of these stocks. But this is how recent IPOs have fared ever since their D Street debut, and lots more to come in the calendar year going ahead.
Right, absolutely right, Snehi. Lots more coming up in this year, given that IPO momentum continues, and of course there is bullishness around IPO. So we're going to be seeing a lot of action in this space, ladies and gentlemen. But staying with startups, well, Hurun has come up with India's most valuable companies list, and 4 startups have been listed in the top 10 unlisted category. In fact, at number 3 is Zoho Corp, that's valued at over 1 lakh crore rupees. Zerodha is following closely at number 4 with 87,750 crores. That's the valuation of the company that's mentioned. Dream11 and Razorpay are at reportedly the 8th and 9th spots with 67,860 and 63,620 crores as part of their valuations. Well, with that, it's time for us to step into a quick break. But coming up after the break, we speak with Sharath Bulusu, the Director of Product Management at Google Pay. He elaborated on the next phase of growth for digital payments in India for the company. We'll be getting Google's largest market in terms of its user base. India is also critical for the future growth of the search giant, especially as far as the company's AI plans are concerned. So with over 10,000 employees, India currently represents one of the largest employee bases for Google outside the United States. And on the back of that, Google today unveiled its 4th and newest campus in Bengaluru. It's called Ananta. This is also one of the company's largest offices worldwide. Ananta is a Sanskrit word for limitless. It spans across 1.6 million square feet with a capacity of housing over 5,000 employees. In fact, those are some of the shots of the campus, and that's Google's 4th and newest campus in India. And on that note, let's also take a look at this special conversation that we had with Sharath Bulusu, the Director of Product Management in Google Pay. He elaborated on what's going to boost the next phase of growth for digital payments in India and, of course, for the company. Take a look at this.
It started with, I remember 2016 is when I remember coming back to India. I was told one weekend that there is this seminar happening on something called UPI. I should go attend it. I was very skeptical. I didn't realize then that I would actually be working on UPI and probably consider it to be one of the proudest parts of my career, right? The way it is scaled is very interesting because it is not just a technical solution or a legal solution. It's been a very interesting mix of, there is a spec that was created, there is legislation that enables it, there are institutions that have powered it, and it's enabled all of this to work with traditional existing players in payments like banks to work alongside new technology that players like us as well as many other startups could bring to the table. And the reason why it's worked is building trust is not just a matter of saying, hey, Google's a well-known brand, people can trust it. It's also all the bits that you build into the product. So last year, for example, we counted all the times that we told the user that, hey, we think this transaction looks unusual. Do you want to continue or not? And if the user said no, we counted that amount. It came up to 13,000 crores, $1.3 odd billion. Now it sounds scary, it sounds large, but for a country of our size and for the scale of UPI, also remember that UPI probably processes just shy of $4 trillion a year, right? So it's a small number, but for the user to whom it happens, it's a big one. So I think features like these that enable users to maintain trust in payments is what's allowed us to grow.
Right, and when we talk about UPI, we have close to 400 million players in the ecosystem. We are a country of, internet users, close to over 900 million. Where will the next phase of growth for payments come from, really?
And the next phases of growth are going to come from a few different areas. Some of them are structurally going to change. Having experience working in both commerce and payments in India, less than a quarter of the participants in digital economy, whether it's commerce or payments, are women, when they're 50% of the population. So I think as women's participation in not just the labor force, but in banking, in making some of these decisions increases, I think we'll see a new wave of users come in. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen there across rural and urban India. By the way, this number is only marginally better for urban India. The second thing that will happen, and I think of this when I think of my own kids, is I recently got my kid set up with UPI Circle, right? UPI Circle enables her to use me as a form of payment. I can delegate payments to her. She's 13 years old. If I'm going around thinking that digital payments are such an integral part of my life, just imagine what happens when this kid grows up and when her, like even younger kids grow up. They're going to need to learn how this works right from a young age. So I think the second thing that will happen is...
But isn't that going to be slightly tricky given the kind of regulatory pressures that there might be?
I think the beauty of what we're doing in India is that we're doing it as part of the protocol itself. See, in theory, my kid could have signed up for GPay by misdeclaring her age, right? I could have moved one bank account to her phone number and told her sign up for UPI, do this. Technically, it breaks all sorts of terms and conditions that I've agreed to with banks. But what UPI Circle does is it gives her a legal, clean way to say, here is my parent delegating payment authority to me. Now, I've set it up for her where every single one of her payments is approved by me. And my agreement with her is, 6 months later, if I see that you're doing this well, I will change it to a rule-based thing. A transaction up to a certain size, up to a total per month, in certain places, you can spend that money. So I think we're structurally building it into the protocol itself. And I think that's the beauty of what's happening here. This is not people trying to say, let's somehow hand over my debit card to someone or my credit card to someone. This is the system itself enables that kind of play.
And what are the new products and services within the digital payments ecosystem that you're planning to get into?
So some which we've been talking about publicly that NPCI also has been talking about is bringing voice to payments. So you enable people with different abilities to be able to use it. The second one is being able to work across a host of different languages. See, you said there are less than 400 million people on UPI. If we have to get to like 800 million for a country of our scale, they're all going to come from many, many different languages. We have, I think, more than 100,000 languages that if you'll set the bar at, hey, there are at least 1 lakh people speaking this, you'll find more than 100,000 dialects in this country. How are we going to set up translations for all of them? It's going to come from machine-based translation, right? So I think there's a lot you'll start seeing in this space. Google's been working with projects like Bhashini to make that happen on language. In systems like Android and Chrome, we build a lot of stuff for accessibility and disability. You'll see us doing a lot more in terms of enabling people through mechanisms like delegation. And that earlier point you made about trust and safety, I think that will go a very long way to just make people feel confident about stuff.
Now, the second point that I mentioned in the question that I asked you was about AI, and this is the final question, was about AI. The government of India is building its own AI model. What kind of synergies do you see Google making on that front? We know that Google is, of course, a big part of India's smartphone manufacturing, electronics manufacturing story, DPI as well, but what about AI?
Yeah, even in AI, I think, like I said, we work with projects like Bhashni, which is about enabling more and more Indian languages to be able to be used in different contexts, right? Ranging from software contexts to others. The second thing is, as a company, we are deeply invested in India for talent, as a market, as a place where new innovation comes from. I think this is a market where we're learning how to work with DPI. The first major product at Google that is built on top of DPI is GPay in India. And in that sense, I think there's a lot that we are learning here that we'll be able to apply.
All right, so a lot that Google is learning so far as UPI development in the country. Of course, it spans across a whole host of services that Google is offering so far as powering India's digital economy is concerned. But ladies and gentlemen, on to our final story on the show before we wrap up this edition of Startup Central. While diversity in the workplace has increasingly become a non-negotiable. So the CHRO of Wari Group, Anirudh Kekale, sheds more light on this subject and the business case behind diversity, equity and inclusion in today's scenario. Let's listen in to what he had to say. And meanwhile, it's a wrap from me on this edition of Startup Central. Hope you liked it as much as we did putting it together for you. Goodbye and thank you very much for staying tuned.
I have a very specific view on diversity and inclusion. Diversity is not about noticing the differences. It is actually about not noticing the differences. Unfortunately, what we keep doing is we keep looking at, the differences which are measured in number, whether it is gender diversity, whether it is regional diversity, so on and so forth. And in my mind, that doesn't really help organization the way it should. What we should be focusing on, the diversity of skills, the diversity of competencies, the diversity of ideas, and bring them together irrespective of the age, gender, background that people bring onto the table. And I think that will have much, much more significant impact on the business results that we want to have in long term.